Hey there, and welcome back to Strategically Social. Here we explore how to navigate the world of social media with clarity, intention, and maybe just a little bit of strategy as well. In this episode, we're going to talk about something that's hiding in plain sight. These are your weak ties. What do I mean by weak ties? You know your Facebook quote-unquote friends who maybe you haven't seen in a decade, but whose lives you still vaguely follow through their vacation pics or their witty captions or their career updates. Weak ties can also refer to people that are more in your network, sort of like your business network. They're not really your real-life friends, as in friends you spend time with, have deep conversations, maybe help one another out in various ways, but rather they're a weak tie. You like their posts, maybe they like yours, and you kind of know each other, right? Through their pictures, through the style of content that they write, the types of things that they post about, maybe their sense of humor. And I should clarify, I'm not talking about all business connections, right? Because obviously some of them you do meet up with, you go out with, you do socialize with in real life. I'm purely talking about those that you really haven't met in real life, but you still have that connection just through the network, through the online network. And what this provides is really like a mutual utility. There's sort of like an unspoken understanding that we might be useful to each other one day. Now, it's interesting because there's a sociologist, Mark Granovetter, who originally coined the term weak ties, and he coined it to describe exactly this kind of connection. The interesting thing is that his research showed that these weak ties can often be the key to discovering new opportunities. Why is this? Well, the very fact that they're not part of your inner circle means that they live in sort of a different social world, or different social worlds, and they have access to different information, different types of jobs, ideas, and other networks as well. So if we think of our closer friends as being like strong ties, these are like the roots of a tree. They're deep and stable, and hopefully you can depend on them to have your back. Weak ties, though, can also be useful, actually, because they're more like the branches reaching out and catching things that wouldn't even really land in that deeper inner circle. See, maybe a beneficial aspect of these social media platforms is that they can provide the platform or the means to create these weak ties. I mean, in a way, some of these platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn are kind of perfect for maintaining tons and tons of weak ties. It just wouldn't be possible to maintain that number of weak ties in the real world. You know, weak ties might not be the deepest thing in the world, but there is sort of this creation of ambient intimacy, a term coined by writer Clive Thompson, and this is used to describe that illusion of closeness you get just by seeing someone's updates regularly, or that mutual exchange of likes or hearts or whatever. You know, you feel like you know them in a sense, quote unquote, know them, and they feel like they kind of know you. Even though it's sort of surface level, that does have some worth. But knowing all this, if we want to be a little bit more strategic about how we're using the social media platforms, basically in terms of networking and connection, understand that most of us are what I'd call generic engagers. We toss likes and hearts sort of like confetti, hoping it keeps us loosely tethered to someone's radar. You know, it's quick, it's low effort, and yeah, it does keep the tie alive, but just sort of barely. If you really want to be remembered, really remembered, it's probably a good idea to try to go a step further. And I think a lot of that can be handled by leaving thoughtful comments on people's posts, interacting with them, maybe sharing an idea. By doing this, we can create sort of these memory hooks, something that links your name to a positive or intellectual or emotional moment. Those things that make people remember you more when they're thinking, who do I know who's good with design or with music? Or who's that person that always has a sharp take on creative strategy? So here's maybe the question to ask yourself. Are you more or less tossing digital breadcrumbs just to stay visible in the circle? Or are you showing up with real substance when it matters? Because the positive thing, even about weak ties, is that they might start as a casual connection, but with the right kind of engagement, they can actually turn into surprising opportunities. So thanks for listening to this episode. I'd love to hear any comments that you have about what I talked about your network, about weak ties versus strong ties. And so I'll leave it at that, and hopefully I'll see you next time.